All right, everyone. Brett Henderson here. Super excited to have another episode of the Veteran Entrepreneur Masterclass. Today is a first for me, because of all the guests we've had in past, I don't know, what we're 30 some odd episodes we've recorded. You, Bill Hale, are my first actual client guest. So I'm nervous. Yeah, this is my first client guest. It just sounds like smiling and laughing already, right? So like, how long have you been a client of mine?
Oh, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, long time. We invented the word client together. It's been so long. So that's the great kind of relationship that I love. And
Yep.
so I guess what I can't do, I have to say, we can't talk about any specific investment advice or anything along those lines for compliance. They're going to come back and yell at me. So I know we don't really do that anyway, but I have to say that. So, but you are a client, so I'm super excited to have you on. You're also a veteran.
Yep.
So tell me about you quick. So, because no one else knows who you are, who's listening right now. Well, I'm sure everyone knows who you are because you're infamous, but tell us a little bit about you and your military career before we go and chat about other stuff, please.
Well, I went in the Coast Guard in 1967. Got out in 1971. Fortunately, I didn't have to go in country. My war was Vietnam.
That was the Vietnam. The era you just mentioned was 100% Vietnam. So you were in during Nam, but
yes.
You didn't have to go.
Well, I tried going, but my XO on the ship I was on, he said he wouldn't sign the transfer orders. And as I look back on it, I thank him, because the whole Vietnam War was so political and so stupid. We lost a lot of guys over there, and then when they came back, we lost a lot of guys over here, and there's still guys suffering from it. And our government didn't take care of them. They didn't do the right thing. So, but after I got out of the military, I went to work for the state of California, and then I got injured and went into corporate America for about 15 years.
Don't just skim over that. So when you work for California, who were you with? Because a lot of our audience is veterans and police, and that's okay, and firefighters. So please.
I was on the California Highway Patrol for almost 8 years, and I got injured and retired on a disability.
Motorcycle cop, motorcycle accident.
No, I was a car cop.
Okay.
A couple of accidents, but mostly it was fights. I worked nights almost all the time, and all the knuckleheads come out at night. And then went to work in corporate America, got into management, and retired from there after 15 years. And then my son and I started up a security company, as you know.
And that's how we met. Yeah.
That's how we met. And you set up our 401k. And then you and I did some stuff individually. And I'm extremely happy with what you've done with my money and the 401k. And that's kind of how we got where we're at.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So thank you so much for that. I think so. Please.
I've got to say one story.
Oh, of course.
This is when we first started.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if you remember it. I gave you some money, and I said, hey, I'm a long-term investor. Let's come up with a strategy, and we'll go down a year, and then we'll look at it again and see what we have to do. Well, right about that time, the market took a huge hit. And it was about 2 weeks after I gave you the money, and you called me up. And the first question I had is, why are you calling me? And you kind of hemmed and hawed. And to make a long story short, you finally said, well, the market took a huge hit, and I was just concerned, and blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, so why are you calling me? And you were kind of speechless. I said, Brett, I'm a long-term investor. I don't care what the market did. Call me in a year. We'll see where we're at, and we'll come up with a new plan. So you go, oh.
Unknown caller.
Okay. And so you call me in a year. we made money and came up with a new plan and made more money. And that's the way it's been. I've always been a long-term investor.
Yes, but yes. And I don't remember that, but I'm glad you do. I don't actually remember that. And I probably phased out that part of my career mentally because it's so new, trying to figure out what a stock was or even how to spell the word stock. And with that, not many clients are like that. When the market gets hit, people want communication. And if you aren't communicating with your clients in a tough time, someone else is.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so it's a relationship and we're in that boat together, right? And most, if not all of our revenue, when you do well, we do well. When you're not doing as well,
Right.
we don't do as well. So we're literally in it together. So that's my job, is to see what's going on and reach out and make sure everyone's okay. And thankfully you are, which is great. And you're still like that now, which is great. So thank you. You're a great client. You make this business fun.
You've done quite well by us.
Well, thank you so much for that. And so now, actually, I don't think I do anything. You don't want to talk to me ever anymore. You talk to Giselle all the time.
Well, you're hard to get hold of sometimes.
Well, it's dad mode more than anything. It's dad mode more than anything. And when the phone rings during the day, Giselle gets it and she yells at me later. But it's just, when I have my son, she has all of it.
Yeah, most of the interaction I have with Giselle is she is fabulous. I just have what I call stupid questions. What about this or what about that? And she takes care of it. But if I have a technical question, that's when I get hold of you.
So the double stupid questions you call me and the stupid questions you call her. How's that?
Well, not exactly. More of the administrative stuff. I get hold of Giselle. Like,
yes.
I need my 1099 from one of the accounts, and she's looking into it right now for me.
Yeah, Giselle does great. Giselle, how are you? Sorry,
I'm good. I'm really, really excited to be a part of this podcast with you, Bill. I was really happy when you were like, yeah, I want to be on the podcast. So yesterday we did a test run of all the equipment, which was really nice. And today we got on fine. So that was really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, before we hit live, this is going to be audio and video, but your camera's great. And I know you just had the setup and your grandson helped you and the audio is good. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I almost like, as we figure this out, as we're doing this and making more podcasts, like making sure that our guests have good audio and video is definitely on the agenda as we continue to do these. So thanks you so much for taking the opportunity seriously and going all in and getting new camera gear and audio gear. So thank you so much for that.
Hey, this is the least I can do for you. You have set me up for retirement extremely well.
We're not done yet. But thank you so much.
No.
So let's talk about some stuff that the listeners may want to listen to or chat about or hear about, which is entrepreneurship. And that's the main goal of this podcast, the Veteran Entrepreneur Masterclass, is having that veteran mentality and then applying it to business in corporate America, where not everyone is a veteran. And so when you made that transition, even from corporate America to, let's answer that question. How did you and your son start your business? I never asked you that question. You had the business. I didn't know how you started. So tell us how that happened.
It was kind of interesting. At the time, him and I were working for the same security company. And we could see the handwriting on the wall in that it was not working out too well for us. So him and I had a discussion and we decided that we're going to start our own business. So, because we did private schools. So the private school that I was working at, I told my boss over there that I'm going to be leaving and we're going to start up our own business. And he said, well, we'll be your first accountant. I said, I can't do that because, you're working with this other company. I said, I don't care. I want you here. And we debated it back and forth. And so I talked to my son. I said, well, what do you want me to do? It's really kind of unethical just to walk away with a contract. And he said, Well, I guess we just got to do it, because my boss at the school said that if I leave, it'll go out to open bid. And so I said, okay, we'll just take that contract. And that's how we really got started.
Okay.
And we picked up some other schools after that. And the biggest thing that we were concerned about was cash flow. And fortunately, we had a little extra money set aside, and that's what's got us through the the first part of the business. Because cash flow, if you don't have it, it'll shut you down. But that's the most important part. That's how we felt about it. Because without the cash flow, you don't have the business. And
I'm sorry.
So we started that back in 2008, 2009, and we just been going great guns ever since. And then a couple of years ago, go ahead.
No, you keep going. I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep interrupting you.
Then a couple of years ago, my son basically fired me. He said, "Dad, you've worked hard enough, long enough. Go retire and enjoy the rest of your life." And I'd retired 2 or 3 times already. And I said, okay, I'm ready. So I retired. And he's running the business and doing a fabulous job with it.
Nice. How was the dynamic working with your son?
It was great. I mean,
Is it always great,
Yeah.
father son? Come on. I know the camera's rolling, but there's the reality of the father son dynamic.
Well, we have what I call a very unique relationship. At work, we're not father son. We're just, we're business partners. If we have disagreements, we'll talk about it. We're not into yelling. We're not into, well, I'm the boss, you're not. No, we're equal partners. And we just talk about it, come up with a decision, then move forward.
What happens if you don't both agree on the decision? You ever 180, complete polar opposites on a particular decision? What happens then?
I'm a little more patient than he is. And sometimes his decisions, I can see the issues with it. And so I'll just sit back and, okay, go ahead. And then when it goes into the gutter, I won't say, well, I told you so. But on occasion, I'll say, how'd that work out? And he will listen better the next time. And that's how it's always been. But we've always been very, very close. We are best friends, in addition to being father-son. That's something
great.
We've worked on for 50 plus years.
No, that's great. There's so many businesses today that do not make it past the second generation, let alone the third, because of the family dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably pull the stat up, and I should know it, but it's that family dynamic. And you listen to my first episode, like my grandfather started the business that my father took over, and he and I were just oil and water, though, and it was not a loving relationship and not a positive one. And so that dynamic, done. But my father still so badly wanted to pass down the business within the family. He passed it down to his second wife's son. And because it's quote unquote the family in his mind. And the son was an engineer, antisocial, interesting individual, we'll just say that, and just ran the company into the ground. But that's rather than turn it over to the loyal staff or the employees that have been there forever, that would probably done a great job with it because they knew the business. It was just so in my father's mind to pass it down to someone in the business or the family that if he didn't do that, he failed like his family mission. And So I applaud you and your son for going into business together and being in business until you were ready to retire again. So that's very commendable.
Well, this is a relationship that we've been working on since he was a baby. And the same, I have two daughters, and the family dynamics is we've been working on that since they were babies. I don't have a lot of friends, but I got a very tight family. And I can go to any one of them if I need something, and I got it. And they can come to me if they need something, and they got it. That's just how our family is.
So let's talk about the matriarch of the family, who we should probably have Paulette pop in and say hi. So how was she handling, and how did she observe as the mother and the wife, of the business, literally, how does that dynamic, how does Paulette deal with everything?
Well, this was Anthony's and my business, and she would try to get involved from the financial side of it, and we would try to not have her involved in it. And so it created a couple of issues, but eventually she got the message, and she kind of stepped aside a little bit and let us run the business.
That has to be hard because that's her baby and her husband.
Yes.
Right? That's her life.
Yes.
Right. More than half of her life is right there besides your daughters. That is actually half. Right. So that must be hard for her, and try and put yourself in her shoes. And so she sees, and I've met her, and she's a wonderful woman, and she's smart, and she's chatty, and she has opinions, and I could see how she she would like to share those with you, right? And would like to be heard
on a regular basis.
So that dynamic, that family dynamic, is so strong, and I just want to commend you for working through it. And there's good days and bad days, like everything, right? Right?
Called life.
Right? But you guys have done that. So
yes.
With that being said, again, I commend you there. I do want to go back, and if we can chat more about it, more as a educational topic for listeners, the veteran entrepreneurs who are maybe, if you're already in business, you get this, but if you're thinking about it, you mentioned it, and I've gone through it. Cash flow. Mm-hmm. Cash flow. And Giselle has witnessed it, and she's not an owner, but she's witnessed it because she's my everything to the business, and she's seen the good, the bad, and the ugly with cash flow. All right. So let's just chat about that. So if you're thinking about going into business, what would you say would be a sane safety amount of expenses to have in the bank as you're trying to get the ball off the ground and put it in your arms to start going down the field? How many months would you say of cash flow would be prudent to have on hand before you pick that ball up and start going, in your experience?
I mean, ideally, I think you'd want a year's of expenses. Realistically, if you could have 6 months, that would be fabulous. Most people, they might have 3 months. 3 months would be a real stretch. So if you could push it out to about 6 months, I think that would be a fair amount of time. But then you got to work your butt off. I mean, both my son and I, we have put in hellacious hours. And sometimes we would sleep at the school because we'd get off at midnight, have to be back there at 4 a.m. And we'd work whatever it took. We would do whatever it took. We would never say, no, we can't do that. And our particular business, there's probably no other security company, I would say, in the state of California that does what we do. But it all goes back to cash flow. And then what is hand in hand with cash flow is customer service. Never be afraid to provide superior customer service, because those go hand in hand.
What's your definition or an example, or just if you're thinking of a moment of superior customer service that either you went through or observed? What do you think is going above and beyond in your opinion?
Well, as an example, at the school that I worked at, it had a very small parking lot and very few parking spaces. So, like a parent would come in, and we had no place to park them, but they were only going to be there for 20 or 30 minutes. Well, we would say, "Give me your keys. I'll take care of your car." If they say 20 or 30 minutes, that means
It's an hour. Yeah, we both knew that. That's an hour at least.
So we'll just park the car someplace, leave the keys, and we might wind up moving it 2 or 3 times. But they got their business taken care of. It was extra work on our part, but they were happy.
Yeah. No,
There are not many places that would do something like that.
No, I think it's true. So in any business, I think we call it the wow factor. What are you doing to wow? What are you doing to go above and beyond? When an email will suffice, or not even text will suffice, you actually press the call button and have a conversation. Crazy concept, but that's turning into a wow. Like a phone call now is turning into a wow because so few people do it.
Yep.
And then, please.
No, go ahead.
No. I'm sure it's triggered a memory or a thought or experience.
Well, I used to talk to the people when they pull up. "Hi, how you doing today?" And do it with a smile. Don't do it, with a growl or, you're upset about something. That's not their problem. That's your problem. So don't make your problem their problem. It's real simple stuff. It's not rocket science. Just be nice to your customer. They're paying your salary. Don't lose that concept. So those are probably the 2 most important things if you got a business. Because if you do that consistently, you're head and shoulders above everybody else.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. And this is something Giselle and I go back and forth with all the time because we are the face of our firm. We have some coaches and operations people behind us, but we are the face. And, Giselle, she cares so much that she takes it personally, right? And so she'll be reaching out to schedule reviews and things. And sometimes clients don't get back. And how does that feel, Giselle? You're here.
Well, I mean, it's knowing that I'm supposed to be making those touches and giving people a call back. It's kind of, I don't know, an expectation that I'll hear a response from them, but I get these are business owners. They have companies that they have to run. They have their own priorities, so they can't get back to me. So it's taken me, since I started with the business, a couple of years to not take that personally, knowing what's expected of me and the service I should be providing, and then having that expectation of they can't get back to you right away, like not, hurt my feelings. So that's been a learning experience. I'm still learning about it too, as I start getting more involved with the business, and my calendar also starts adding up and I'm booked. So just making time for the business and then also client service, balancing those two.
So I'm going to ask you to chime in here in a second, Bill, but as Giselle's chatting, what is screaming in my mind is finding a team. If you're building your team, you're an entrepreneur, of team members that care, because you can't teach caring. Either someone cares and they show you they care by their actions, not their words. Because there's another thing, another example, the opposite of what Giselle just said. So Giselle cares so much that when she makes her calls, people don't call her back. She gets upset, right? And she's like, no one respects, but to put in perspective, We're providing the service. Our clients know we're there. They know we're doing the work. They know we're reaching out. They'll get back to us if and when they're ready. Right.
Yep.
But if we don't do that, hey, we haven't heard from them in a while. Hey, I'm getting calls from this other firm. I'm getting calls from this other firm. I'm getting calls from other firms. I haven't heard from my guy in a while. Why am I getting calls from these other firms? I haven't heard from my own guy in a while. Maybe I should talk to this other guy in a while because they're providing better service. So it's the lesson, just care and do. And if someone is ready to get back to you, they have a question, they will. Like half of what I send out to our clients don't even care. They don't even care. When someone replies though, oh, Brett, they got an article, they got an email, they got some piece of information, and they reply back with a completely different topic, has nothing to do with what was sent out because that's what's on their mind. But if I didn't send that piece out, maybe that trigger wouldn't have been top of mind for them to reach out with a question that we can then work and help them solve. So going back to the entrepreneur mindset and finding a team and your own team and your son, finding a team that cares is paramount. And then you have and I won't say who, but there's a relationship, a new relationship we just met, not a client one, but a professional one, and comes in, oh, I'm this, I'm care, and I do it. Yep. You hear it, all the lip service. Yep, okay, you care and you're gonna support. Great. Okay. Well, I need this and this. A week goes by. Hey, remember this? Oh, another week goes by. Oh, sorry, I've been really busy trying to do it. You can say one thing, but your actions, that's your reputation based on your actions, not what you say. Right? What are your thoughts on those two concepts, or just what do you call those? Just perspectives. Yes. Thank you, Giselle.
Well, like anybody that starts a business and eventually, and particularly if you're successful, you'll be hiring people. And managing people can be very, very frustrating. And not everybody can be a manager. I've worked with people in the past that they couldn't manage their way out of a wet paper bag. My style is I'm very upfront with people. They will know what I'm thinking. I'll tell them, here's what I expect out of you. And I usually give them one or two faux pas. After that, they're gone. You're representing me. So you better do it my way, because I know my way works. If you can't do that, nice knowing you. Hit the road, Jack. And that's just how I worked. Like one of my pet peeves is don't show up to work late. If you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. And I've fired people for that. So be there on time. And then we can start the day, on a positive note. It's just so simple, but a lot of people have never been called on it. And people that I worked with knew, don't be late. And it worked out great. Now, the employees at other schools that didn't work with me, they thought I was a real knucklehead.
You're the tough guy.
I was the tough guy. And the people that did work with me, we just had a great time. But that reputation, that I heard this or I heard that, is mildly interesting to me. But the guys I worked with, we always had fun. We worked hard, but we played hard. And it always worked out really well.
And I think what was good for you, I can't share too much about your personal business, like the business itself. Like your relationships were handshake relationships versus how litigious California is, like handshake type relationships and trust and communication.
Yep.
That's almost unheard of these days, right? I wish it was like that more and more, but it just isn't because of what our society's become. That's a whole nother podcast in of itself. But the power the positive power of relationships through positive communication and actions, which build trust and your reputation and confidence in your ability to execute, is everything. That's the foundation. So at the end of the day, kind of summarizing all of that, if you make a promise, keep it.
Yep. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Don't let anything stand in your way. If you say you're going to do it, take it to the bank and get it done. And I've always operated like that. In fact, the account that I worked at, and I don't even know if today we have a contract with them, but I worked there for 10, 12 years. We never had a contract. It was a handshake. That's all it was.
That's relationship.
It is. And we always felt, my son and myself, if they can find somebody that can do it better, kick us out. Because we felt that they couldn't find somebody that could do it better. Because we kicked butt.
That's good. It's good. What was a challenging memory or experience where you're like, oh no, I don't know if we're going to be able to deliver? And you guys, or maybe, because you never do every time. Let's just be real. Sometimes we fail. I fail. Giselle never fails, but I fail. Right? Right? So admitting that you fail is one thing, but learning that lesson, so ideally you don't repeat it, right? What was an example where you were there and you humbly failed, but you had to pick up and just keep going?
That's a very good question.
I'll let you think about that. Keep thinking about it while you're, because I didn't set you up with it, so I didn't warn you ahead of time. I remember, so as I was asking that question, which I'm giving you time to think about, one of my good friends who's very successful in corporate America now, I won't use his name, but I remember he was interviewing back in the day, and we all went through interviewing, coaching when we came out of the military, whatnot. And one of the questions, they said, tell us one of your weaknesses, and what have you done to overcome or strengthen that weakness? And he's like, that's a good question. One of my weaknesses is that I just don't have any weaknesses. And he was, and he actually said that during the interview, like, my weakness is I don't have any weaknesses. That's a weakness for me to find some. I'm like, that's awesome. An awesome answer. Like the best answer ever, I think, in an interview. But that being said, hopefully it gave you some time to kind of think through some examples from the day, and the question still stands. Think about it. Maybe you never had a failure. I don't know, but maybe an example of failure which you learned from and had to pick up and drive on.
Well, I'll refer back to the school I worked at.
Sure.
Very, very limited parking. And when we would have events, we'd have way more people coming in than we had parking spaces. So we would have to try to figure out how to park everybody. And some days we did really, really good at getting everybody on campus. And some days we could have done better. Until eventually we really got it wired down. So it's really just kind of, you're going to stub your toe. So don't really beat yourself up. Analyze it. Okay, how can I do better next time? And just remember that. And then next time when it gets there, implement your new plan. Because we were always having to massage things. And then what I did, because we had a golf course that backed up the school, I had a really good relationship with them, and I was able to negotiate. They had a piece of the golf course that was right there next to the school that they let me use part of it. After the sun went down, I could park cars over there if I really had to.
Okay.
So I always had that in my hip pocket. Nobody ever knew about it. I knew about it and my son knew about it. I never told the school. So
That makes sense.
you always want to have a little backup plan somewhere.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Would you say, well, that is interesting. So try to think of the relationships, and if it's on a handshake, then you're not necessarily going through reviewing your contract every couple of years and they're coming back and grinding you and we're like your best friends, but then the contract's up and you renegotiate, then you're like at each other for however long that takes. You never had to really go through that.
Yeah. In fact, I think in all the years we've been at that school, we have raised our price once. The economy has been in the toilet for years. So why should we keep grinding them for money? Now the school kept raising their price to the parents, but we felt that we really don't want to keep grinding them for money. And on the financial side, we were able to make it work. So both my son and myself, we're not out there trying to make $1 million. That's what your job is. And so we just kind of let it go like that.
See, I had another question already posed, but then you hit me with that and you totally just like, all right, now it's pressure's on me again to perform. Right. So you just rocked my mind. So where I was going to go though, and just came back to you, thankfully, cash flow again. So your cash flow was good. Your lifestyle was good. The profits were enough. You're good. You didn't have to look at that. So it really goes back to, for any business, myself, yours, manufacturing, service, white collar, blue collar, any collar, no collar, cash flow is king. And strong cash flow comes from whatever you're going to be doing, do it well.
Yep.
Right? Whatever your job is, do it well. Learn it, master it, own it, execute it at a higher level than your competition. And you shouldn't have anything to worry about.
And take care of your employees. My son and I, we took lesser pay and passed that on to our employees. Because if you have a happy employee, they're going to do a better job. And so it's not always about money in your pocket.
Well, let me ask you this regarding your employees, and it's not always necessarily about money in their pocket. It's the environment, it's the job, it's the culture, it's the benefits, fringe benefits. So what do you think was the overall culture for your team, and what did they value beyond just compensation?
Well, we have a matching 401k plan. Thanks to you.
Yay.
You pointed it out, described it to us, and showed us how it works. We would get together every so often and do things. We always communicated with them, and we never looked at like we're the boss, you're the subordinate. No, we're on equal footing. I don't think I ever told anybody, hey, I'm the boss, so you're going to do it my way. I didn't need to. My son doesn't need to. And if they're working, we're working. So we're right in there with them. And in fact, in reality, we're probably working harder than they are. So we're setting the example. And people respect that.
100%.
If the boss is sitting on his butt drinking coffee somewhere and just pointing his finger, no, that's not a good example. You've got to set the example.
I think to that point, sometimes, and I love this podcast because I do self-reflection the whole time. I think about Giselle and I, our relationship, and our other vendors, and how we run things. And there's certain times Giselle, humbly, she feels overwhelmed. She's doing a lot and it's administrative work. And she's like, hey, can you help me do this? And the easy answer is just, if I need to help her, just get it done. But at the same time, have that higher level conversation if I'm here filling out this form versus on the phone with a client fixing an issue or addressing or finding an opportunity for them, am I serving the business, the firm, the best way possible? And so sometimes we'll go back and forth, and this is just communication. Like I'll speak for you. I don't want to speak for you, Giselle. You could be viewed as, hey, Brett's putting all this stuff on me and I'm not doing it. And I'm doing my stuff over here. And sometimes you just have a lot of stuff and it's communicating about that. And I think Giselle, you tell me, so how do when we have that and we communicate like, hey, I'm doing A, B, C, and D, so sometimes just because I'm not there doesn't mean I'm not working. And so we used to be on top of each other, literally working with each other. And we gave up the office after COVID, and now we still keep an office. We can go in one day a week, and we haven't even been in 2 months. So like, she works at her place, I work at my place. We have a huddle once a day, communicate what we're doing, but I have to trust her that when I'm not there, she's doing her stuff and the business is moving forward, and she has to have confidence in me, that I'm doing my stuff. But I guess what it comes back to, it sounds simple on paper, but we're human beings and there's emotion, and it doesn't always feel that way when you're in it. Right, Giselle? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you said it perfectly. It definitely is communication and letting yes, I do have some tasks that do need help finishing, and I feel the job can get done faster with some help. And I also see the perspective of just the higher level thinking of this is a moment of growth for you. So can we think of it at a higher level and see it from the business owner's perspective? You're trying to grow the business, and I'm doing the supporting tasks to help you grow the business. So I think it's just keeping that perspective in mind and reminding myself, hey, this is stuff that needs to get done for the business. And I know that you need some time freed up in order to do what you do best.
As an outside perspective, Bill, jump in.
Well, everybody has a role. And I'll give you an example. When I was in corporate America and I got promoted into management, I had a big team meeting. And because I'm just a very upfront type guy, I met with all my guys and I said, here's the deal, guys. I'll be very honest with you. Please do your job, because take it to the bank. I will always do my job. And that's how we all started. And it worked out pretty well. And some guys thought, well, maybe he won't do his job. And they found out pretty directly that that was a bad position to take, because they started working elsewhere. So it's just really, as an owner or a manager, listen to your people, because they'll give you good information. But at the same time, if they want to be slugs, you have to address that, because your other employees know who is not working. And that's a downer if it's not addressed.
Brings the whole team down.
It really does.
Culture of mediocrity.
Yes. I didn't accept mediocrity. So
and that seems to be the norm now.
Oh, it drives me crazy. Absolutely crazy. But as an owner, listen to your employees. They can give you very valuable information.
Kevin Pendergraft.
They can tell you how to improve things if you listen. And that's the key.
I think
Take all
huge.
that input. Yeah, and like I say, it's not rocket science. Just because you're the owner doesn't make you better than them. You just have different responsibilities.
Yeah, I think with what you said is spot on, and I completely agree. I think as the owner, you also are charged with vision
Yes.
and making sure that ship is going towards that vision, or even understanding the vision. And so I've humbly, self-reflection always during these calls, with Giselle frustrated her to no end, because I am not ADHD. Maybe I am. I don't know, but I'm king of shiny objects. Can this make it better? Can this make it better? So I'm always looking for something to make us more efficient or grow faster or streamline a process, and everyone's quick to throw, oh, this program's gonna do this program's gonna do that, this I'm gonna do this, and it's all bullshit. And it's my podcast, I'll curse. So it's all bullshit.
Yep.
And however, my mind is like, is that an opportunity I just didn't explore, and am I hindering the business because I didn't learn about it? So I view these opportunities as the visionary of the firm to understand where the market is and where we fit in that market, and are we on par, and are we above, are we below, are we ahead, are we behind? And so I will take tech calls, and someone's promised me the next widget, and when I was brand new several years ago, okay, I trust you, and the biggest lesson there was learning that marketing is not sales. And it's very easy to spend money on marketing. And just because you're spending money on marketing doesn't mean you're actually closing sales and driving revenue. And talk about cash flow. You can burn your company. Everyone's happy to take your money, for marketing with no ROI. And so what I will share, like, there are conferences and calls all the time, and I'll say, Giselle, check this out. I'll check this one out. You check that one out, just to get a pulse of where we are. Do we need it? Are we good here? Are we not good there? And a lot of times I go to conferences with my peers, my competitors. It's all one big happy family, right? On the surface, right? But every time you walk in a room with a bunch of advisors, they're all competitors. Especially in my world, my technical world as a 401k expert, it's cutthroat. It's so cutthroat. And we all know each other in the same demographic. We've all been around for a while. Everybody knows everybody, and dirty laundry, good, bad, and ugly, it's all there. And so I go to these conferences and I just kind of sit back and, okay, what am I hearing? Do we know more? Are we ahead? And I listen to other people say and do. And I will say 95% of the time we're above most of the individuals that we sit there. I said with Giselle, like, you see what we're doing? You see what we're doing? These people have no clue, and we're here. And so it's just a learning opportunity to get a pulse. So as the owner, normally the owner, or there's a board or C-suite, is in charge of the vision and making sure it's there. So a challenge I have is knowing that, or having the confidence, the self-confidence that the path you're on is the right one. Because you don't know, looking back, it's always 2020, right? But when you're in that path and ship's going through the strait, you don't know if you're heading towards a sand barge or a sandbar or a rock under the water. You don't know until after you go there. Well, there was a rock there. You don't always have that depth finder, right? So what are your thoughts on that? Just the challenges for a team, an entrepreneur. You've got your staff that just wants, hey, give me A, B, C to do, and just let me do my stuff so I can do my job. And then you've got the visionary trying, hey, well, are we doing the right job? Like, if I put you down to chop down this tree and the tree's in the wrong forest, it does us no good. It's making sure that the ship's sailing through the right channel and you're cutting down trees in the right one. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me put it in golf terms.
And you took me golfing once, not to cut you off, but you took me golfing once, and I was horrible at it. So I'll caddy for you.
You did well.
I was horrible.
We went to the range, but you always want to hit at least birdies.
Two over par.
And I'm sorry?
Is that 2 over par? Or is that 2 under? Is that 2
That's
under?
1 under.
What? See?
No, 1 under. Eagle is 2 under.
Okay.
Or you can hit an albatross. That's 3 under. Very rare. But with all the stuff that's out there, and all these people will promise you anything and everything, but how many can deliver? And that's what you have to kind of, figure out. And that's where you have to do a little research, or have somebody do some research for you. If you're talking to somebody, well, give me some of your clients' names so I can talk to them and see if their research is really worth it? What are you selling me? Because a lot of times there's some really good salesmen out there and they'll lie right to your face, which just sends me in orbit. Just tell me the truth. I can deal with the truth. So you really check them out before you spend your money. I mean, I don't throw money away. I'm relatively frugal because I want to give you more money so you can invest it, so I'll have more money. But yeah, I don't believe a lot of what people tell me until they've proven to me that they're straight up. So you've got to develop these relationships with people, and then you can really start moving forward. And sometimes these take a while to get these relationships developed. And yeah, you always want to. Oh, yeah, it takes forever sometimes. But I think you need to compare yourself, depending upon what industry you're in, compare yourself to the other people in that industry and see how they're doing and compare yourself to that. Are you below? Are you even? Or are you above? And that'll be a good barometer for you.
I think you're spot on there, and it is, and that's key. So if you're in any industry, if you're an entrepreneur, go to your industry trade shows, go to the trade shows that support your industry, learn all your vendors, see your vendors think, because they know your competition too, because they're trying to sell your competition too.
Yes.
Right. And they're the best ones to have. Who's this? We have wholesalers in our industry come take us out to lunch, dinner all the time. They want us to put their mutual funds, whatnot, on 401k menus for our clients or find investments to sell our clients. And we get a pulse. We use that as an opportunity to learn about the markets, kind of market research, get a pulse there. So this has been really good. So kind of putting this together, what would you say would be, not to put you on the spot again, and which is like, I can't think when I put you on the spot, but your number one takeaway then, as being a veteran, to starting a business with your son, to then passing that torch to him to let him run it solo, and you could be retired. What would you kind of say was is there anything? I know there's no magic bullet by any means, but is there any kind of thought or anything that you would want to share with any other veteran entrepreneur, or a veterinarian? It could be an entrepreneur, veterinarian.
Yeah, you never know,
right? As they could think about this journey.
Never be afraid of failure. I've failed, I don't know how many times, but I'm kind of stupid. I would get back up and try again. And it's worked out quite well for us. But never be afraid of failure. Dust yourself off and get back up.
Bill, I think that's a phenomenal lesson. Giselle, what have you learned from today? One thing. I know there's a lot out there.
Yeah, it was nice to see a different side of you, Bill, because I know we've only worked on the wealth management side, but from just hearing you from the business owner perspective, this is really good advice for entrepreneurs, I thought. Really good life lessons there. Yeah.
So this is our first client on the podcast. So it's been a great experience, and a little nervous because we truly know each other 15 plus years. So I shouldn't be nervous. I should be excited about that. But obviously it is what it is. So this has been great, though. I appreciate you being on here, Bill. Giselle, I think you're amazing, and all the growth you've gone through, and to hear where we're going, I just feel better about everything we do all the time with every episode we make. So thank you both for everything that you do. And if you're a listener out there and you're a veteran entrepreneur and you got questions, comments, concerns, you comment below, send an email. I'm Brett at swe90.com. Everyone always, what's the 90 for? We'll talk about another podcast episode, not today, but this has been a phenomenal episode of Veteran Entrepreneur Masterclass. Bill Hale, thank you so much for being on here. Giselle as well. Everyone, we'll talk to you soon. Next episode.